Loans can be a massive part of a young player's development, and in recent years Liverpool have used the January transfer window to good effect in that regard. We've seen Luke Chambers and Gerald Kwanzaa both enjoy January loans before subsequent integration into the first team, of course both to varying levels, but Liverpool will be hoping for some similar success here. Although the first group of selected players don't fall quite into the same bracket as what Chambers and Kwanzaa did at the time. The players that are about to be mentioned have already had loans in men's football, and it was somewhat of a shame that we didn't manage to secure one in the summer for varying different reasons. As always, these players are in precious positions, a very select few, all very talented. First up, we've got 21-year-old midfielder James Balagizi, a player who was at one time very, very highly thought of. And it's not that he's not seen as talented as now, but his injuries have put him on the back burner, maybe behind where he'd like to be. But he is now back fit and he is ready to go. He did start the season with the under-21s after 2 loans last season, one at Wigan, one at Kilmarnock. Both probably received less game time than he'd probably have liked, less than ideal for both club and the player. But that was mainly due to injuries. A real multifunctional player who's capable in the 6, the 8, the 10, biggest asset is probably carrying the ball, and what he does have working in his favour in terms of his career development is he does have a solid loan under his belt. The season prior to last, he was at Crawley Town, getting rave reviews there, a fan favourite and one of the best players, scored against Premier League Fulham while at Crawley. But again, the loan was cut short due to injury, and it was a recurring theme here. So it's going to be really important that the next move Balagizi gets is one where he can find fitness, find a good home and string some real minutes together. Again, another player who would do well to add to an already senior loan would be 21-year-old left-back James Norris. Now, Norris is actually somebody who's been in and around the first team this season. He was in the squad in the Carabao Cup, and he's been present in Arne Slot's first team training since the beginning of his tenure, really. Short on left-backs with injuries to Tsimikas and Robertson. Norris is a left-back who can play midfield. I do think left-back's his best position. He's a real good crosser of a ball and plays with a fantastic intensity. Now, he did spend last season on loan at Tranmere. Minutes weren't too significant, although he was a squad player. He did more often than not come from a bench, so I think it would be good to see him go back into League 2 if he could get a move there and see if he become a more prominent figure. 21-year-old Dominic Corness spent last season on loan at Jayden in Switzerland, a rather unique loan for an English youngster. A midfielder with an expansive passing range, nicknamed the Wand by everybody in the academy. Twice scored from a corner in one game, a unique fact that often gets brought up. And similar to Norris, wasn't too much of a prominent figure in his senior loan, but he did come from a bench. He wasn't completely out from the picture, and he did get experience in European football at that, which will be a little bit different for him. He has been playing in the academy again this season, which is fine. But hopefully he can add to those senior minutes and get some real experience so he can carve himself a career out in football. Now, Liverpool do have a small collection of goalkeepers who have senior experience, and perhaps there's less rush for a goalkeeper to get those minutes. Although if you can get them in at a young age, it's a massive bonus, and I appreciate goalkeeping loans might be difficult. There's Fabian Mrozek, who's just come back from Sweden, Harvey Davies, who was on loan at Crewe last season, and Jakub Orzinski, who actually had a failed loan fall through out in Cyprus. So if possible, it would be good to get these lads back out in between the sticks in the men's game. Potentially even with goalkeepers, you can look to non-league football. We've seen Luke Hewitson, Marcelo Pitaluga head out there in previous years. But now looking towards something which might be considered a little bit more exciting if you look from the outside in. A group of players who could be looking at the first loan in men's football, first of whom is 20-year-old James McConnell. McConnell was injured all summer, didn't even get a chance to train in front of Arne Slot, but there was rumoured interest at the time. He's an all-phases midfielder. He had come through the ranks as a more of an attacking player, was good in the final third, some really good third-man runs, and we've seen him move a bit further back as his career's developed. We've seen Jurgen Klopp use him as a 6, and he's done very well there. So it's interesting to see how he's going to end up, maybe somewhat of an all-rounder, but there could and there should be a lot of interest in him. It would be League 1 or the Championship. I think McConnell's going to be a player who moves on loan in January, and it would be an exciting pickup for whichever team manages to get him. Jayden Danns, the big name on the list. Not had a loan yet, but he has experienced men's football after we saw somewhat of a breakout season last season. We saw his goals against Southampton, superbly taken, air of confidence, swagger about the pitch. He's taken the challenges in his stride in the last 18 months, and whether that be with Arne Slot's first team or alone in January, it's an exciting second half of the season for him. I think it's important not to rush any young player and give unrealistic targets and not speak out of turn, maybe say things that quite aren't true, and get caught up in the sensationalist side of things. But Dan's in men's football, he does fit like a glove. He rides contact really well. He doesn't seem to be overawed by the physicality, comfortable in tight spaces, very, very composed on the ball. And it's not just in the centre of the pitch, he does like drifting out wide into those areas. And much will depend on what Arne Slot thinks of him. It might be the case that he does like him, but he doesn't need him right now. So a loan might be the best for everybody. And there will be interest there, without a doubt. He was heavily rumoured to move to Plymouth in the summer. He does share the same agent as Wayne Rooney, although he has now departed. So we'll see what happens there. Jayden Danns is still, of course, just 18 years old. 20-year-old Terence Miles is a player who might do well to grab a first taste of senior action. An England youth international, although he's not been called up for quite some time, Miles plays in the heart of the back line, and at 20 years old, it's about time he dipped his toes into the water and got used to the men's game. He has been used as a right back primarily in the last 12 months or so. I think it's mainly due to those behind him who were pushing to come up, who might be viewed as having a high ceiling themselves. But with Miles, you'll get a sound, dependable player. He looks like he loves defending, he's strong in the tackle, and the 100% application wherever he's going to play on the pitch. 22-year-old Tom Hill has circumstances around the fact in which he hasn't played any senior football yet, that mainly being that he's been out for 2 years injured, spent the last 18 months building himself back up, so it is understandable in the careful way with which he's been managed. It does now, touch wood, seem to be well behind him. And he's a real intelligent player. He's one who attacks space. He's got good anticipation, understanding in the attacking third of where the ball's going to drop. Seems to be in the right place at the right time for a midfielder. He's taken a lot of responsibility in that sense. And he's a great finisher of the ball. He does get on the score sheet a lot for a midfielder. It's just real difficult to gauge the level. It might be a risk for some sides, having not played any football for that long. Maybe not a risk, but more so it's hard to tell if he'd be able to have an impact straight away or whether he's going to have to drop a bit lower. But there is talent there, and it's good to see him enjoying his football on the pitch. And he's a real threat in the attacking third. Trent Doherty is somewhat of a wild card in the list. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's any rumours or anything at the moment. But there is some level of sense to it. So he come through in his scholarship group with Ben Doak and Lewis Kumas. They're both out on loan, enjoying good times at Stoke, good times at Middlesbrough. So there's no reason why it couldn't happen. It's just if a club judge him to be ready. And he has played well this season. He came into it with an injury, which might have scuppered things for him earlier in the season if it was to be any interest. But he is almost that senior attacker now in the setup. He's in the sweet spot where he's done the under-18 level, he's done the under-19, played well in the EFL Trophy against senior sides, and he's good at under-21 level. See, there might be maybe players who are considered to have a high ceiling than Conor Doherty who are younger, but they've not really checked those boxes yet. There's still time to wait. At least to be on the same level as Conor Doherty anyways. He deserves some level of opportunity. He's a really talented player, and I know for a fact there's clubs who are well aware of him, because I've personally had messages asking how he's getting on here and there from people in the positions of academy recruitment in the Football League. So it's one to watch. I don't think it will happen though. Similarly, two players who I don't think you would have tipped for a loan at the start of the season, mainly due to their age and experience, who might have played their way into attention from the pyramid, would be Renell Young and Amaranello. Both have different levels of first team involvement this season, both in squads. But I don't think it'll happen either, but the ones to keep an eye on.